Okay, so we are about an hour into our journey, or an hour and a half, and I've made the mistake of trying to explain how relays work.
I didn't ask
to
for this.
Bianca.
I actually specifically asked not to have this.
So I was trying to explain how if I was to connect an extra battery like the Bluetti power system.
Hang on, let me just preface this. I don't...
Preface?
Preface it? Is that
Preface.
Right? Oh. Leave me alone.
Okay, preface it with something new.
I always forgot it's preface.
Oh, well, we got that on camera
This is
too.
like that bloody... What's the other word that I always do? Epitome.
Oh, yes. Bianca pronounces epitome as epitome.
I don't mean to. I read it as epitome.
She's read too many books, that's what it is. You don't get
I read the
pronunciation through
word.
books.
I read it at a young age before I learned what the word was. And so my brain was like, epitome, whatever that is. And I didn't realise that epitome and epitome are the same word until recently.
Anyway, I was trying to explain what...
Let me preface this with the fact that although I'm an engineer and I have done some things in electrical systems, I hate it. I hate electrical systems. I don't like circuitry. It just doesn't make sense in my head. I struggle, even if I'm doing it like on my game, like Minecraft, trying to do redstone circuits on Minecraft. Anything to do with electricity, it just doesn't compute in my head, and I don't know why. There's a short circuit in my brain.
Very clever. Let me also preface this with I have no electrical training whatsoever, so it's like
Yeah,
a
but
dumb
you just
trying
get
to
it.
teach the dumber.
Blind leading the blind.
Blind leading the blind. So I was trying to say if I was to try and charge a second battery, like one of those all-enclosed battery systems like the Bluetti thing I have, I wanted to permanently mount that in the canopy and have it getting charged as well. I'd connect my main battery, the iTech World battery, to the Bluetti with a cable, but I'd put a relay in the middle, and then I'd only power that relay through the DC-DC charger, so it wasn't constantly being charged by the main battery. Only when the keys are on, the DC-DC is getting power, that would activate the relay, and that would engage charge between those two batteries. But Bianca just thinks that would result in fire.
No, because I sort of get how relays work, right? I know kind of how they work, but it just doesn't make sense in my head. The way electrical systems just don't make sense, because where does it go?
It doesn't need to go. It's going to the relay and activating the relay.
Let me reteach what you taught me, is that you have your two batteries and they're connected by a wire, but you don't want that wire to always be connected, because otherwise it would just drain one battery when your car's not running.
Correct.
Okay.
There's a stream. We're going past a stream.
Nice, there's a caravan down there. I wonder if you can camp there.
Oh, that's cool. We should camp there.
Yeah, well, maybe. It's going to sound the way back, but anyway. From Coral Bay back here.
Continue.
I forgot where it was. Oh yeah, so they're connected. Okay, so then you put a relay in, because the relay is like a little switch bridge thing.
It keeps those circuits separate.
It will not connect those wires until it itself receives power. So when it then receives power, Daniel would power that from the DC-DC charger. So when he turns the car on, the main battery sends power back to the DC-DC charger, which then spits out power everywhere because it has no control. And it would spit it all to that little relay, and then that little relay goes, oh, I've got power, and closes, and then the batteries charge one another. But then how... And also the main lithium battery is still connected to the DC-DC charger as well, so it's already charging, and then when the DC-DC charger is also on, it charges the second one. It just flows through, fills up that second battery, and then fills up the first battery like the water tanks.
Yeah.
This is how it works in my head. And then you've got the other outlet of the relay, and Daniel says that just goes to Earth, but then it's like you're sending electricity through, and it goes to a bolt, and then where does it go?
There's no positive charge going through your Earth cable. All that is completing the circuit. I'm probably explaining that wrong. Someone's probably watching going...
negative, right?
Yeah.
So, if it's getting power from the DC-DC charger to the relay, it then has to go out the other side, because that's how a circuit works. It won't flow if there's nowhere for it to go. So where does it flow from that bolt? If it gets to the Earth, it's got to go somewhere, otherwise it just stops, and then it backs up in the line,
let me explain.
like water, and doesn't flow. And
ignore the DC-DC charger. Here's the full circuit. Battery, positive wire going, it goes through the DC charger, ignore that. Positive wire goes to the relay, negative wire goes back to the negative of the battery. So the full circuit is battery, positive, negative, relay, positive, negative. That's the full circuit.
Yes, but
so it's going back to the battery, if that's your question.
But it's not, because you're saying you're earthing it, and you can earth stuff to like a bolt in your car.
Do you know why?
No.
Okay, so the main battery under your bonnet has a massive cable coming off the earth terminal going to the body of the car.
Oh my god, are you kidding me?
That's why you can earth anywhere to the...
That's why I always thought you were earthing it to the ground.
Sorry, I thought you knew that. The other ground that the car's not even connected to.
Because you call it a ground or an earth, and people earth things to the ground.
They call it ground because it's like a ground. Like when
then
lightning
also-
strikes you, it's grounding to the ground.
Yeah, I know. So then how does that work? Because where's that going? Is the Earth a big battery?
I don't know. Just not, I can't explain that.
That makes so
I can have
much
a go,
more
but
sense.
it'll
So
probably
it's going
not be
back
true.
to that main battery.
Yeah.
So it is making a circle.
Yeah,
all the way
that's a
through.
complete circuit.
So why don't we get zapped when we touch the car?
Because we're not touching the positive. If you grab the positive terminal and touch the car, it's got not enough amps to do any damage, but that would do it.
But if I touch the car, the metal bit of the car, where
Yes.
there is electrons floating through them because that's how electricity works. It has to.
You need to complete the circuit, so you then have to be touching the positive terminal.
But how? Why? Well, can I not just touch the ground and then it would earth to the ground instead of your battery, and then you'd lose?
No, because you're touching the wrong side. Because
No. What if it's like I become a wire? Let's say you had an earthing wire.
you understand how circuits work, right? Positive and negative.
Yes. Next.
So if you were to grab the positive terminal and touch the ground, as in the physical ground, nothing would happen. Grab the negative, touch the ground, nothing would happen. If you grab the negative and the positive, then that's a circuit. It's not enough to do anything to you, but that would be completing the circuit. So if
why
you're
can't
touching,
you make a second ground?
it's the same as if you grab, let's say the battery was sitting on the ground, like the physical ground. You grab the positive terminal and then you touch the ground, nothing would happen because you're just connecting one side of the circuit. Like it's got no way back to the negative terminal of that battery.
Okay.
Right.
Hang on. So yes, I understand that.
Yeah. So
Right,
you grab
but
the
no,
car,
but
you're
listen.
grabbing one side of the battery.
What happens if you then? No, I've just answered my own question. I was going to say if you got like, say your Earth. I'm imagining it's a wire now that goes back to your main battery.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
which
what
is
it
your
is.
car. Okay. What if you then gave that an alternate path that went to the ground?
Again, only one side of the battery is touching the ground, no problem. It's like having a light globe,
I know it would just
and
be
you're
like
just powering
it'd
one
be
side of the
like
light
having
globe.
a wire just hanging there, and it's like sure, if you connect it to something and then put a positive to it, it will then become part of the circuit.
Yep.
But otherwise, it's just like an empty wire hanging there.
Yep. So it has to touch.
It would still have electrons in it. They would just get to the end and then have nowhere to go, so they back up and they keep going back to the battery.
Yeah, so you're getting to a zone that I don't understand.
I'm imagining it like water flowing.
Okay.
Okay, and then if you had a separate pipe that went off to a dead end, water would flow down that pipe until it got to the dead end, and then it would back up, and then it would continue circling.
Yeah, just the difference with batteries is you need like that. It's like that water would only ever connect to its own path, but whereas water can like, push everywhere. You know, like if you had a water pipe, it would just flow
Yeah,
onto the
sure.
ground. Whereas electricity won't do that.
I don't get it.
So now, do you understand the relay system?
Nope.
So basically, like one
Wait,
cir-
yes, because you're not connecting it to an earth, you're connecting it back to the battery.
Yeah. Because well, that's what the earth
Could you
is.
not earth it on the battery that you powered it from?
Yeah, you can, but it's
As
just
in, like-
annoying. You have to earth it to the battery you're powering from.
No, okay, sorry. So could you, if you're going from the DC-DC charger to the relay, could you then earth that back to the battery of the lithium battery in there?
No. Oh,
What would happen?
you could. It's just that then
Well, then fire would happen.
no, it wouldn't because that is sharing it. Oh god, okay. The main battery that has
Is
a
that its
positive.
own circuit?
Listen, it is.
Is it a circuit inside a circuit? Like if you had a circle, and then you've made another circle inside that circle.
I have, but they're sharing earth because I've connected the earth from the main battery to the earth of the DC-DC
How?
to the earth just with a cable. That's what that second big fat cable is. That's the earth. That's why the Anderson has two connections. One's positive, one's earth. And so the DC-DC,
Why would you do that?
because the DC-DC needs an earth circuit.
So your DC-DC charge is acting like a relay.
It's a very, very smart relay. You know, isolators, like the way I used to charge the Pajero battery. It's just like a little box, the same as the yellow one I put in the Ranger.
Yeah, when that battery gets enough,
That
it will
is
then
basically
trigger.
a massive relay, but it's a voltage sensitive relay.
Yeah, so it just means
So
that
instead
the
of
bridge
that-
is like super stiff and it will need a lot of electricity
Oh my god.
to be like poof and then close.
No, it's called a voltage sensitive relay, so it has a computer chip. When the voltage reads more than whatever it's set to, which is 13.3 volts, then it activates.
Well, I like
so it's
mine.
not activated by having ignition, it always has ignition. It only turns on when it has whatever the
What
required
happens if that
voltage
little
is.
volt reader inside of it breaks?
One of two things. Always power, never power.
That would be annoying.
Yeah.
So that's what the DC-DC charger is.
Yeah, but it's just much smarter than that.
How?
So basically with an isolator, when it's on, it's just on. Whereas DC-DC, it's putting a proper, this isn't, I have little to no understanding, but basically it puts a very intelligent combination of voltages in. Oh god. Look at this.
Why?
You know that big charger I gave you to charge your friend's battery?
Yes.
That doesn't just go 14 volts all day long.
Why?
Because apparently they don't like that. Lithium batteries and AGM batteries, deep cycle batteries in general, don't like just getting a constant amount of voltage. You'll never get them to the true 100%. Whereas DC-DCs,
Interesting.
maybe it's a different combination of amps as well as voltage, but they give it the right amount of. Imagine you have like a triangle. I'm just making this up on the fly. Imagine you have a triangle. You need to fill it up, right? A regular, like you're playing Tetris, but it's a triangle shape, and you can put the pieces in this way. And now an isolator or just connecting it will only give you squares, and you have to try and fill that
So
battery up with squares, right? Yeah.
I get it.
Whereas a DC-DC will give you the correct pieces to fully fill that triangle. I hope that's a really good analogy. I don't understand
It makes
things
sense to
that
me.
level.
What I don't understand is why, but that's just my brain, because it'll be something to do with the chemistry inside the battery, because batteries are just producing electrical energy via chemical energy. This is where I'm now out of your range. That's where my knowledge comes in. That's how they work, right? So it's chemical energy that's stored, and then when the chemical reaction happens, it releases energy, and that becomes electricity. That is the whole point of a battery.
Yes, dear.
That's how they work. Lead acid batteries, the same way. And then when you charge them, all that's doing, or in a lead acid battery, all that used to do is reverse the chemical reaction by like inducing it to go back the other way. So that then, once you've done that, it would then start to trickle back and it would produce more electricity again. And that's why lead acid batteries die over time, because you can't get 100% efficiency. So you charge it and it would go back, but not all the way. So then when you do all those reactions again and get the chemical energy again, you'd never get the same amount. So you'd slowly get less and less and less. That's why batteries die.
I'm becoming smarter.
Does that make sense?
Sort of.
I did a shit explanation.
No,
I
sort of makes
can't
sense.
remember the details, but I don't know how lithium batteries work, and I don't know why they give 100%. Maybe it's just a better reaction. Or
Says
maybe
the person who works on a lithium line.
Yes.
Go to more seminars.
Well, to be fair, we mine the spodumene. We don't make the batteries.
Well, that brings us to the end of episode 2.
It's actually really
Thanks for joining us.
Everyone else
Bianca and
is just
Daniel's
like
battery
skipping
lecture.
through, zoning out. This happens a lot, by the
I'm
way.
going to have to do some clever editing to bring that down to a minute instead
I-
of 12 and a half
The
minutes.
entire time that Daniel was wiring out this canopy, to my knowledge, it just ends in fire. Like, the way it drives me insane, right? You watch that video where he shows you all the bits and pieces he's used to make the electrical circuit, and he's like, you've got a
100 amp.
40 amp DC-DC charger, you've got 100 amp wiring, you've got 60 amp fuses with 50 amp fuses in them.
Yeah.
And all of that goes together in the same circuit. So to me, it's going to send 100 amps worth of power to a 40 amp DC-DC charger, which is going to melt it. And also on the way, it's going to melt
Can't
the
get through the
fuses,
50 amp fuse though.
because it's also going to melt those fuses. Because in my mind, 100 amp means it just takes 100 amps.
Well,
Which
Bianca
Daniel has
needs-
corrected me, and it doesn't take that. It's like having a big pipe with only a little bit of water in it.
What Bianca needs to accept, not quite understand, because I don't fully understand, is that electrical devices in a car setting will only, or in a 12 volt setting, will only accept the amount of power they need, which is why I can take a 1 amp LED light strip and connect it straight to the positive and negative terminals of the battery, which is essentially giving it everything the battery can, the same terminals I can connect an air compressor to, which take 80 amps, and the light strip's gonna be fine. It'll only take what it needs. I don't understand completely why, but Bianca's like, I must understand why, and therefore fires happen.
What also gets me is it means that, why did you put a 50 amp fuse in something that only ever needs to take 40 amps?
It doesn't. It's a constant 40 amp, so that might fluctuate to 42. It might go down to 37. So I put a 40 amp. Every single time it crosses that 40 boundary, which is designed to constantly run at 40, but there will be fluctuations.
Yeah,
It'll pop that
makes
fuse.
sense. I remember that conversation. Alright, we're still